Well, okay.
That's awkward, isn't it?
I think what I'll do is I'll do this.
Okay. I've got to ask you a favour, Miles.
Oh God,
So it's nothing major.
Ben Emlyn Jones. The reason why we're using that caricature is we're taking all of this extremely seriously.
I know. I always do. I always do, don't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's that Maria is doing an event, I believe, in Devizes. Is it Devizes or Pusey on the
Uh,
23rd month?
would Maria
Nice.
Wheatley be doing an event about something?
Ah, yes. Well, she's invited me.
Well, gosh, wow, where did I get this hat?
And oh, yes, that was
And
two things
this
I
is
like
her
that.
wonderful book.
Yeah. She
Now,
had. I've actually had a little flick through the original copy before it was published. It's very interesting. Yeah.
and this is her wonderful signature.
Hey, signed by Maria
There it
herself.
is, Maria Whatley.
Mm.
It's a little joke we have on the
What?
way to Pusey. There's a big sign saying Whatley. So every time we go past that, I call her Maria Whatley, and just to annoy her, for instance, if she's taken my entire, you know those coloured sweets like opal fruits, except they got like Maltesers, giant Maltesers.
M&M, not M&Ms. What they
No,
called?
big ones.
Skittles.
No, big ones.
Skittles.
But big
Oh, right.
ones. Big ones
Oh.
like the size of minstrels, except they
No.
got opal fruit in the middle of them.
Oh, right. No, I don't know.
She'll down one of those in about 30 seconds. What she does
Wow.
is, hello, Miles, this is one for you. And that's it.
Hmm.
And by the time we've driven about 10 feet, it's gone. And then I look at her and she looks back and then starts giggling. It's shocking.
Well, as my grandmother used to say, God help your teeth.
Well,
Whenever I was eating. Anyway, the only favour I want to ask you is if I can stay at your place again. I'll sleep on your wood pile. I mean, it's
well,
not been,
actually, now that we've rebuilt the edit suite, you can. You can
Oh,
actually
thanks.
stay outside in the log cabin, and we'll have a blow up bed for you. No blow up
Okay.
other things, by the way.
Oh dear. Well, I'd rather have the real thing.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ben.
Ooh, Ben, that was naughty. Hmm.
So,
Jane's going to be there as well. Not there's a connection. I'm not there's a not that there's a connection
well,
there,
I was
but
at
yeah.
Jane's birthday party, the beautiful Jane's birthday party
Hmm.
on Saturday, and her actual birthday, I
Oh.
think, was on the Tuesday, and I brought a Christmas card. Not bloody hell, Jesus. I brought a birthday card, strangely, to her birthday, and she said, "Oh, that was 5 days ago or something."
Oh right.
She was
Well,
not happy.
that's only 5 days. What's that between friends?
Well, sort of.
Well, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, so you can always send her another card.
Well, I don't think you're meant to. This is something
Oh.
I've always got confused about Valentine's Day.
Mm.
Bearing in mind this is the 13th of
It is. It's
February,
Valentine's Day Eve.
and are you meant to sign it or whatever?
Oh, sometimes depends. Excuse me. Although you could send an anonymous one to someone you got a secret crush on. That's actually a tradition that goes back a long way. The Romans used to do it over 2,000 years ago. They
So
during the festival of Lupercalia, you used to send couples would exchange gifts, husbands and wives, etc. But if there's someone you secretly favoured, you could send them an anonymous gift as a way of kind of breaking the ice. And that's something we still do today, of course, on Valentine's Day, which happens at the same time as Lupercalia, 14th of February.
this is a wonderful thing about Ben, is that you know these things,
The anorak guy, anorak man, that's
which
me.
basically means I've been doing it wrong all this time. I use my left hand just to try and write.
Oh, right.
The
So,
problem is that my writing is so bad
oh.
that using my left hand to try and disguise my bad writing just gives the game away because the writing's just as bad as my right hand.
All right. Well, you could always. I mean, you could. I used to just, like write little block letters on mine. I used to send them to people sometimes. I just when I didn't
Ben,
have a
are you
girlfriend.
suggesting that when you sent mail to people, you cut letters out of a newspaper?
Well, it didn't. That looks a little bit intimidating. That's what you do when you've got someone in the boot of your car. But
Ben,
I
I,
used to
I
like.
didn't know you did that sort of
I
a
used to use a
thing.
letter set. I used to use like a letter set or a stencil
So
to
you
write
used
the
to have
message.
people in the back of your car, or was it
No,
was it bits of people like their heads or anything like that for the mafia?
no. I'm not what the Michael Shrimpton thinks of the Germans. I wasn't like that. No. But no, I did send. I used to exchange when I had a partner. I exchanged gifts with her, and to take
You
her out
mean
for
you put your
dinner.
partner in the back of the car and then shoved in
Yeah, but on the seat. No, on the seat, not the
anonymous,
boot. On the seat, not the boot.
and you sent her these letters and all bits cut out of
I
newspapers?
gave her little cards and things, yeah. And then when I didn't have a girlfriend, if I had a crush on someone, I'd send them like a secret card,
Ben,
Just and they somehow they'd always
you
work out it
did
came from
make
me.
reference to your size, so I suggest that if you have a crush on somebody, maybe you should change the phrase to something else. Because
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of
since we're
crude
taking
jokes
each
about
other
who
very
goes on top
seriously,
and underneath, Yeah. But but so yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to Maria's event, definitely. It's actually the day before that, incidentally. I mean, I'm going to have to probably come up quite early in the morning, because the day before that, Mark Devlin is doing a tour of Oxford with me.
God Almighty,
We're going to take some lucky tourists on a tour of Oxford, but it's not going to be the usual tourist tour. It's going to be a tour of the conspiratorial areas of Oxford. Now, I've already done one a bit like that, but Mark wants to do another.
well, I
And
think that is leading to maybe what this conversation's about. Because I've forgotten.
well, we're going to talk about Benjamin Fulford.
Ah,
Here we are. Now, you sent me a very interesting email. This is benjaminfulford.net UFO news feed. New feed, so new, no S. And you pointed out there was a number of very interesting things on this page. We can go through that if you like.
yes. And I'm going to see if I can get. I'm actually subscribed to Ben Fulford's stuff. As you know, Ben, Gary Heseltine ran a police UFO database.
He did, yes, Proof-Loss database.
And now they're talking about doing a one for pilots.
That's an excellent idea. That is a very good idea, because they're people very likely to see these things, and they very often do. It's important, I think, for them to be able to. I'm sure Dave will say this, to have someone they can talk to without. I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be, but
well, this is
sometimes
something
they get
I did point out to him that this new. Let's talk very seriously about this. We've got this new whistleblowers thing in the UK, which basically means a corrupt government doesn't like people whistleblowing, so you're going to be prosecuted.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, it depends on the situation. I mean, for example, a military pilot may well face criminal charges. Yeah. So, and unless they have some kind of sanction from the authority, from the Ministry of Defence or whatever.
Which has. While you talk, I'm going to plug something in. It'll get that other computer up. Hold on.
Okay, a civilian pilot, airline, cargo, whatever. They could face They could face. I don't know if they could be prosecuted criminally, but it depends on the contract, I suppose. But they could certainly face disciplinary action at work. They could end up being sacked or possibly grounded by the CAA. Miles has gone again. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I've actually got that available. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put this on my feed, so you will see it your end, and it should be there.
I see. And
if I bring that over to there,
right,
we will see Benjamin Fulford's page, and it's a very important site. This people really do need to get across Benjamin Fulford. He is. The first time I actually met him online was when I was on a Edge TV documentary. Sorry, it wasn't documentary. It was. Let's get this a bit bigger. Can we get this a bit bigger? Yeah. It was about. Now this is important. What you're looking at there. Benjamin Fulford does this weekly report, which is a Q&A video, the latest of which is there. And if I was to do that, I would get the actual report. But this week's video and questions, and that's what it looks like. That's on his actual site, which is a subscription site. And when you've seen it, you're able to share that using the Rumble link. So that's how he does it. And this is this is where this kind of information comes from. What's happening is that oh, I'm swapping things. I shouldn't do that. I've made a mistake. Let's get me back on. Oh, that's the other one.
I mean, the page you sent me is the one I've been looking at, and it's very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, you showed a different page there. How the one you sent me was from February the 4th, and it contains a number of images and videos, which I found it really quite extraordinary. There's very old...
this is the point. He's now introduced as of last week. I'll just see if I can get back to that. He's introduced last week. Let's get that back on you. Right, I've interrupted. So there's a whole new page on this on Wednesdays, where he is the Beyond Bluebeam. I think. Welcome back. It's a UFO page. I think the important thing is that this is the latest one. And it may be the one that you're talking about, February the 7th. Yeah, we're thrilled to announce the launch of a new blog, Beyond Bluebeam. Every Wednesday, prepare to dive into a curated selection of UFO Project Bluebeam and other extraordinary news updates directly from our confidential sources within the Space Force. It's up to you to judge their authenticity. Additionally, we'll be sharing intriguing video clips that we believe you'll find fascinating. Initially, access to our blog is complimentary, but please note that it will transition to a subscription-based model in the future to support our sources. Join us as we explore the unknown. So this is part of the free side of Ben Fulford's blog, and you'll see with the logo there that Benjamin Fulford basically is dealing with the eastern side of the intelligence aspect of things.
It's a Chinese dragon.
Yeah, and the important thing about that is you're getting a completely different perspective. The Japanese ancient societies, Japanese mafia, for instance, why one of the prime ministers, a recent assassination of one of the prime ministers of Japan, because he did not follow the cabal's narrative on the various things that they're planning to kill us. And Ben Fulford is very outspoken on this. He's very direct about this. And that is, they have announced, that's the Khazarian mafia, they are going to kill us. Yeah. They've made this a statement, they've said it many times, and you have the right to defend yourself. Their plan is to wipe out at least 90 to maybe 98% of the entire population, and the rest will be droned as slaves as manifesting capabilities to manufacture a reality. And that's what's happening. That's what the World Health Organization situation is now happening imminently.
I remember the Japanese Prime Minister. Funnily enough, at about the same time, there were two other deaths of statesmen, of national leaders. One was the Prime Minister of Haiti in the Caribbean, and the other was the President of Mozambique, a country in southern Africa. And these guys made a heroic stance because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had been there. I mean, they seem to be in Africa and wanting them to have a certain medical treatment. They were trying to.
I've given you a little bit of extra base there.
A certain medical treatment that the WHO was like spreading, was trying to encourage all the world to have because of this disease that was sweeping the world. And they made a heroic stance to protect their people, saying, we don't trust this. We believe that it could have something else in it that could cause harm. Let's not forget that in Africa, the number of people who are HIV positive are, in some areas, such as Natal, South Africa, it's like 60%, which makes no sense because even if they're having continuous gay orgies, you wouldn't get that level of astonishing infection when you consider that the number of people in Britain who are HIV positive is actually 18% of a percent. So it's very, very few people.
So I don't know if you can see that. That's one of the pictures off this free part of the Ben Fulford site. And You can see lots of objects there, thousands of them, hundreds of them. Well,
That's in that video, yeah.
yeah.
And there's on this particular one, I can see there's so very old paintings, and there's an old painting. It looks like actually prehistoric, and it's on a cave wall, which shows a flying saucer, or looks like a flying saucer.
There's stuff in the moon there, which is you can see.
It,
You
yeah.
notice this is coloured. I think it's the moon.
Yeah.
And
we look. I think we were looking at a different page from me, but okay.
Well, this is the one on February the 7th.
Right. So I'm looking at February the 9th. Okay, I'll look at yours.
Okay, well,
February the 4th. I'm looking at.
Yeah, that would be the first one.
Okay.
So I'm just showing that just to give a highlight as to what's available on this. It's just whatever we could get up.
Yeah, it's a good. You could sign up for it. Excuse me.
So, but it's interesting that I mean, one of the great things about you, Ben. I'll have to write this down. You know, I've said nice things about you more than once.
It does happen. It does happen.
And but it's about these cases, and this is another one.
Oh, good. Is that that's a bloody sky portal or something.
So that is. What the heck's that?
It looks like one of those things that appears in the sky. Steve Mera reported it in his book, where sometimes up in the sky in the clouds you see strange things. I mean, sometimes these can be like spacecraft, like UFO type, very large UFOs. Sometimes you see almost like an image of a landscape.
Yeah.
And this is sometimes being described as a Fata Morgana, which is a type of mirage. But
I mean, there's a what they call an Earthgate.
Yeah, that looks like the Stargate from
yes,
that
exactly.
Film, that Roland Emmerich film. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very, very bad film, extremely poor, but it's incredible.
Sorry,
idea.
which film is this?
Stargate by Roland Emmerich.
Right.
It's extremely interesting idea, and
these are the.
Roland Emmerich often makes really bad films about really good ideas, which is that's a shame. But yeah, it's about these people that go through this interdimensional portal and find themselves in another.
Are you
world.
talking about the original Stargate film, which became the Stargate series?
Yeah.
Right. Actionable intelligence and child torture centers received from high-level U.S. government officials. That's all happening now in terms of this date line, which is the 13th of February. So anyway, that's the point about that. I'll mix off that. That's the trouble of operating with 5 keyboards is you keep hitting the wrong one. So I'll hit that keyboard, and that brings me back onto. So that's extremely important, Ben.
Yeah, and there's other examples. I mean, there's other examples I could tell you. Like there's this along with the cave painting. There's this kind of it's a mosaic actually. Looks maybe Roman. And it has an image of a landscape on it, and you see a classic flying saucer above this hammer-shaped object sticking out the ground. It looks a bit like.
Well, why don't I allow you to share screen if I can do that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I can.
I need to check if I can do that.
Why wasn't it share screen?
The trouble is
the green button.
No, if I
host participant. Okay.
One participant. I can't. Oh,
well, it's the February the 4th.
Can you do that? Have you got permission to do that?
It says you host disabled participant screen sharing.
Flip me, that's good.
So you can do it yourself, Miles.
I can't see it properly because it's it's now being enabled, has it?
Yeah. Do you want me to send it you in your browser?
No. If you just I can't. I want you share your stuff.
All right. Share screen. Oh, here we are. Right. Okay. So this is the one. Yeah.
The problem is it's too small on the bottom of the screen I've got, so I can't do it. It's very difficult to read.
You can't. Can you see what I'm seeing now?
I've got the moment. Yes. Yeah, that's right. If you make that bit, yeah. Okay. So take it away, Ben.
Will do. Right. This is Benjamin Fulford's newsletter for the 4th of February, and you can see here. This is an ancient cave painting. I'd say it's prehistoric. It don't know where exactly it is in the world, but these appear in several places: southern Africa, the south of France. There's many very interesting examples of prehistoric cave art. And if you you see here a classic flying saucer, and down here you see some figures.
Yeah, but Ben, there are tentacles on the bottom of that flying saucer.
Yes, it looks like they're coming down from this red bottom here. There's several maybe animals around it. I don't know. This here is
and bear in mind that the shape of those saucers are very, very similar to all of many of the mounds around Stonehenge and Wiltshire and places like that.
Yeah,
They just
this
happen to
is
have that shape. That's all.
it's strange, isn't it? Yeah, this is a mosaic. It looks possibly Roman, and you see this landscape here with some trees, and there's this structure here. It looks like I think that might be a crucifix. And then you have above it a
No, it's
flying saucer.
actually quite similar to the shape of some of the objects at Göbekli Tepe. I've got the name wrong, but
Oh, the the stellars. Yeah, that's what they're
yeah.
called, stellars. Yeah, it does. It does look like
And it is
Göbekli Tepe.
rumored that people were tied to those, and the reptilian snake head, the head of the snake, which is in that would that's where they would be devoured. But that's only that's not any established.
Yeah, but I mean, this is far more. This is Roman, which is about 2,000 years old, as opposed to the 10,000 odd years old for Göbekli Tepe. But we go carry on a bit down here. It's appropriate because this is a crucifix. Obviously, this is a medieval. It looks like an icon from medieval religious art.
Is that not a Vermana?
Well,
If I'm out of
this is
Indian,
what's interesting because you have here the scene of you have here the Passion of the Christ scene here, and there's these two objects in the sky. And now, if you look at them from the distance, you could say they may be comets or something. But look at them more closely, you can see they're clearly vehicles. There's a figure of a creature inside them, and they have spikes or tails coming off them.
can you see that more clearly as to what type of creatures in them?
One is the one they
I mean,
appear
are
to
they
be
humanoid?
They appear to be humanoid, I would say. I mean, though you can't really see clearly enough, but this I don't know how big this icon is, whether it's possible to get to. It may be just like for really, really small. I mean, I don't know. You can't really tell. Now, this should go down to this one. This
Yeah.
is a TikTok video of a portal appearing above Geneva. Now, yeah. Now, you don't. I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if anybody witnessed this on the ground.
Well, it's quite similar to a doorbell video in Marlborough where a light being appeared to cross the road, but there were three or four other lights which came on behind the houses, and so one was behind one house, and the other was nearby, and it was masked by a car, and this object, which looked like a jigsaw piece, really. It was sort of a humanoid thing, but it was like a jigsaw piece, and it was caught on one frame. I think those things run at about 6 frames. I don't know whether it's 6 frames a second or what.
It is similar. Let's remember that CERN is here. Geneva is the home of the Centre for the European Centre for Nuclear Research, where
Which has nothing to
there's
do
the
with
Large
nuclear
Hadron
research.
Collider.
It's
Which is well, I mean, even the scientists working on it say it will create some kind of penetration to another dimension, which could explain the Mandela effect that so many people are experiencing at the
well,
moment.
once you are dealing with an enclosed counter-rotating energy field, plasma field, you are dealing with scalar out of 3D technology.
Yeah. This is, I mean,
Two opposing
that is
fields
its
don't
purpose.
collapse to zero. They become a scalar field at 90 degrees, which is basically it goes into another domain.
This could be the intention of it, Miles. It could be that's what they want to do. It literally could be some kind of
and they have a very high level of turnover of head staff because they end up dropping dead because it's sucking their life force.
Yeah, I mean, remember that the CERN logo has a 666 in it. It has there's a statue of Shiva, which in the Hindu mythology is the creator destroyer.
Well, the 666 refers to the intersection in 3D at 19.5 degrees, 2/3.
That's interesting because of course, it's the number of the beast from the Book of
Well,
Revelation.
they say that's a number of the beast, but it's interdimensional.
All right. Now I don't know what the origin of this is. It just said hypersonic takeoff from a military base. But this is the video. It's very well done. This could be animated, of course, but the object has a shadow. You can see.
Well, this is precisely what the Russians meant that they were developing this is David Adair stuff. His craft involved hypersonic travel at something like Mach 45.
Yeah, I mean this one can go.
And I refer to interviews he's had with Dr. Michael Salla.
Oh yeah.
And he did 4 interviews just for Christmas, and I would thoroughly recommend those are watched on Michael Sala's site.
Yeah.
It's very important how David Adair and how he's talking, because he is elderly, he's had a few heart attacks or whatever, and he made a hypersonic device, a rocket, and that's all in the interview, but he did that when he was about 17, and that's about 60 years ago, or something like that.
I remember David, interesting chap. Yeah, you have this sort of quasi-spherical object here. When the takeoff is a speed estimation, there it talks about the acceleration.
Well, that's exactly what happened with his rocket.
That would need to have some kind of gravity control.
No, it's not. It's a pulsed hypersonic. It's a pulsed plasma engine.
Sure, I mean it's whatever it is. It's something that's not.
It gives you.
It's not a helicopter.
It gives you Mach 45 or whatever, and there is film of a video of a lot of military types looking at a rocket or a device about to take off, and they were busy talking, expecting 0543210, and this thing ascending. Basically, it was 543210 gone.
I mean, it's difficult to judge. I mean, I've tried to work out where this is. It's certainly not Area 6, that the secret little, there's a smaller base at Area 51. It's not that.
No, Area 51 is one of the areas in Dreamland. Area 6 would be one of the areas in Dreamland.
It's a smaller base with just a single short runway.
As in S4 and all that stuff.
S4 is like an underground facility to the south of Area 51, but this is it's similar. I can't identify this, and I know some people will say it's fake, but then this day and age, what can't be faked? I mean, anything can be.
Well, the bottom line is that when you're dealing with multi-frame rate, 12K resolution animation and animated objects using AI, you cannot trust anything. There's some very good photographs of Biden being a buddy in sweaters and check shirts, various photographs in various places with Trump and Biden having a good time, playing snooker, fishing, and all that. But a lot of these things, you've got to look very carefully. For instance, there's an AI photograph of a girl who's sitting on a train, and she's got a rucksack on, and she's traveling through Switzerland or some place like that. The error in the photograph is the width of the train. It's too narrow. So when you see errors like that, that's what you've got to look out for, because when they construct the image, they get these sort of, or when the AI constructs it, they get these kind of perspective errors wrong. Things like shadows from lights. That's one of the things which gave away a lot of the moon pictures, because the shadow was wrong. And so
hands,
on.
Often humans have strange shaped hands. That's another one.
Yes.
That's another one that AI has struggles to get right.
As plastic surgery does, the hands give it away, the throat and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so I'd ask people, Miles and I can either ignore this evidence or we can tell you about it. I mean, but in this day and age, we are dealing with a very, very cry wolf situation. So please do bear with us. This could be real. And,
well, this is what I say all the time. Do not believe anything. This is a source of information. It's a new source of information. And later tonight, I'll be talking to Dave Hodrian about this immediately off when you take off from the runway. Dave Hodrian will be coming in his private executive jet to appear by Zoom from Birmingham. I think it's Birmingham.
Yep, Birmingham. So I'm the warm-up act. Yeah, I'm the supporting artist. This here is Colombia. Now, it says UAP over Colombia. I mean,
the point is that these spheres and objects are being seen by John Wolfson.
Yes,
and he exhibited that. He showed that at Bases 2023 on the Christmas presentation, and he narrated over it. These objects, many of them are not visible in daylight. They're sitting there right in front of you or flying over you, right in plain sight. But using these new high performance, high res, high frame rate, infrared and ultraviolet cameras, you will see these objects. And the difference is that he's seeing Wolfson was describing a heat source inside these objects and also an exhaust port. And these were flying around like blazes. And this is referencing to that famous Malaya Airlines video.
Ashton Forbes. What Ashton Forbes worked, because the film that Ashton Forbes has been unearthing and publishing and talking about, which shows a very, very similar phenomenon. And disturbingly, you see a 777 airliner which just vanishes in a flash of light when these objects converge on it.
Well, the key to that was the fire in the hull, and that was the thing which was going to take the plane down. It was refused landing, and there's several errors in that particular film, but there are also dead giveaway hallmarks which shows that the various bits of it are real, but the objects flying around it are animated. They're not part of the real original film.
Yeah. Now this here, see, I can't identify this location. It's in Colombia, South America, and you see like a saucer, like it zooms in on this saucer here. Again, doesn't zoom in as close as I would like.
Well, I think if we get back to the reason for the title on this is Blue Beam. Now, Blue Beam was something that a very elderly, decent MOD guy going back to the 90s and 80s, Ralph Noyes?
No, there was a guy called Serge Monast.
No, UK English guy. I'm
right.
talking about an English guy who did lectures to no more than 100 people.
I heard that name.
Former Minister of Defence.
Yeah, I think he was in before.
No, he wasn't. He might have presented. He's. We're talking 70s, 80s. I think he passed away in the 90s.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
He talked about Project Bluebeam. He's the first person to mention it, and that's the early 90s. So I'm suggesting that to still have a project under a name from the 90s, 40 years ago, get that right, Miles, 35, whatever years ago, what he was talking about was even earlier. I'm suggesting that the technology to display things now would be slightly more advanced.
Definitely. I mean, when Serge Monast, the Canadian journalist, first discovered the Project Bluebeam's research, and he publishes, I think this was set 1970 something. There's reason to believe him. I mean, for example, he was arrested. He ended up in jail, and then he had a heart attack in prison.
The good old. That's how you bump you off.
It was a 9mm heart attack in the back of his head, probably. That's what they were trying to do with me Monday 10 days ago. Oh yeah, you're feeling better now, because
no, this was a pulsed energy weapon. I was pulsing like blazes, and when I got up, I was still pulsing. And the only way when things like that happen, abductees talk about it and how they're trying to be pulled out of your body, is that you've got an electric field around you, or some kind of energy field around you, and the idea is to break that up. And the simplest way of doing that is to run a bath and put Epsom salts or any kind of salts into it, which means you have an ionized bath, and you get into that, and that will discharge the electric field that whoever is trying to do whatever they're doing. I managed to do it with another form of technology, which I won't talk about, but I managed to discharge that pretty quickly. But at midnight 30, going on to 1 o'clock, who do you call? And then
you texted me,
and then about an hour later, Maria Wheatley was taking a hit.
Oh my God!
And both me and Maria were taken twice. Remember the UFO conference this last summer in Manchester?
Yes.
She spoke at it, the Awakening conference. She was speaking on it.
Yeah.
And so she jumped in the car with me, and we drove from Manchester to Birmingham and arrived too early. We were missing 30 miles.
Oh, I see.
And then we drove through through Birmingham, and got onto the M5 in an area where I'd already lost 30 miles before on a different journey. So our 200-mile drive from Manchester back to Marlborough or Devizes was 60 miles short. And when I came back from, and she's a witness to that, so when I came back from Norway just after Christmas, early January the 2nd or whatever it is, my 80-mile trip from Terminal 3 to Devizes only had 50 miles on the clock.
So what's happening to you on these journeys?
I'm physically going. The car doesn't record 30 miles, and it's always 30 miles. This has happened about six
Mm,
times now.
that's really weird. I mean, if anything like that happens to me, I'll let you know because it did happen a couple of years ago. I was actually doing some shopping for somebody as a part of my
Well, that's
job,
probably why,
and
Ben, for God's sake. You doing
and
shopping for somebody else? Jesus.
well, I disappeared for about 40 minutes. I mean, I don't know where I was because I don't know when it actually happened, but I know that when I arrived at my destination, I was 40 minutes late, and it's something that I do it like at least twice a week, and I never ever
Disappear for
arrive
40
when
minutes?
yeah, I had 40 minutes missing time.
Yeah,
It
but
was
that
weird.
happens a couple of times a week.
No, it's only happened once.
It's not because you nip in and see Colin in Weatherspoons, no?
I think I would remember that if I did that.
Or would you want to remember it?
Well, it depends what he's talking about. If he's going on about the alien autopsy all the time,
No,
well,
we're not
I don't
talking
mind
about
actually.
that. And we're
I'm
not going
kidding.
to.
I like Colin a lot, and yeah, I don't mind him talking about that. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's happening is that Maria Wheatley and I are doing a tour in middle. Oh God, it would be brilliant if we knew what date it was. Middle of June, I think. No, it's not the middle of June. May. No, I think it's May. Jesus, it's on
It's sometime,
Eventbrite.
yeah, it's late May. But you mentioned it's Rendlesham Forest.
Yes, she's going to be talking about. It's the too hot. It's the basis too hot to handle tour. I've been asked by people, well, could you do a tour or something? So the idea is to do a series of tours, and because it's so far apart, you can't do them in one day. You can't go from Rendlesham to Peasmore, and so the idea is to go to various places and give a tour of stuff that hasn't been sort of released. So I'm starting with Bentwaters Woodbridge base, because the witnesses who've collected a huge amount of data, and I'm going to give a shout out for Deborah Hatsfield right now. She's very depressed. She's given up and says that's 40 years of research just finished. Deborah Hatsfield, I think, had a car
Deborah
crash.
Hatswell,
Hatswell,
the Bigfoot lady.
Hatswell, yeah.
Oh,
No,
Bigfoot
she's
lady,
not
yeah.
just a Bigfoot. She had like something like a team or sources of over 300 independent people who would report things to her. And one of them was an extremely interesting event that happened in Northern Ireland in County Antrim, where there was a meeting with a number of Sasquatch. I think it was 3 Sasquatch had a meeting with soldiers in Northern Ireland, in County Antrim, near Lough Neagh area, and they had a meeting, and they actually were taken by the army. So that's her data, but the point is she's got a huge amount of that data.
Oh, her website, the British Bigfoot database, is voluminous. I mean, it really is. There's so much on there. Yeah, and she's included
Well,
the
what is her
legendary sighting
website?
by it's called British Bigfoot Research Association, I think it's called,
Yeah.
and it's loads on there. It includes the famous sighting by what's his name, Matthew Arnold, the poet here in Oxford. He saw a big hairy humanoid creature
Well,
near Boars Hill, just to the south of
well,
the city.
in the area between
In
the
1850,
M3,
1858, I think it
in
was.
the in the area between the M3 and M4, there are little habitats made in this forest, because they've been building those. But you see, they can see us, and they choose not to be seen by us because they realize we're so dangerous to them.
Fair enough, yeah.
And one of the I met somebody in the States at the Super Soldier Summit 2, I think it was 2, and they talked about the Bigfoot in the or the Sasquatch in the mountains, and they come down and they intermingle with, and some interbreed with high mountain peoples, and they help them, and there's a much more cooperative thing, and it really, these sort of, let's hunt a Bigfoot. I mean, these individuals have the choice to be in or out of our dimensional domain. If they're really close, you'll smell them first, and that's them allowing you to smell them.
Yeah, this is something that Jackie Tonks has mentioned, another Bigfoot researcher, that the first time you know they're around, you get this particular smell.
Yeah,
Sometimes even before you see them, you can
yeah.
smell them.
But
Yeah.
they will resonate, so you can see them,
Mm.
and major. I mean, this idea that you go and hunting them with. I mean, it just shows how completely crass. Like that these beings live about 800 years, and the basically the point is with the information I was talking to a couple of people who directly encountered them, they have seen us come, and they've seen us go many times, and right now they're seeing us go. And right now, basically, in the climate that we have with the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the CIA narrative on taking control of the UAP, UFO phenomena, that is old German DVD intelligence stuff, which goes back to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and there's a whole pile of history on that, which Putin actually described on his interview with about what happened with the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
That was an interesting bit of history, but all of these people are told to do things by somebody else.
Yeah.
The issue, according to certain observers, is where they're getting that command structure from is beginning to, or has already failed.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Which means they are enacting orders that they are basically redoing themselves. They're sort of saying, well, the last thing we were told was to do this, so we're going to keep doing this until something else comes along.
Okay, so is that good or bad? Does that mean that...
It means that they've lost their command authority, which means that the gloves are off. We're in a state of war. They have stated they're going to wipe us all out. We've got this disease X coming. We've got the World Health Organization thing coming, where all our politicians have walked out on Andrew Bridgen when he came on to talk about this.
That was disgraceful.
The Prime Minister has been forced, he's been despicable. The whole lot of the MPs have been despicable. There are upwards of 40 million now going to die or have been dying from this injection, which is a bioweapon. And the curves are continuing to rise, and it's not stopping. They're roughly at about 40 degrees up the graph. And those who didn't get the injection are now getting, they're getting the same symptoms because of the shedding. And that's been in the newspapers.
Yeah, it's strange that the WHO's actually published a forecast for deaths this year and claims it's going to be very high. I mean, the question is, how do they know in advance? Because they don't state what the cause is, although we could probably guess what the cause is.
The unexpected deaths are undeniable. What they're hiding is 12 other basic death buys, and those numbers are going up at the same rate. So things like brain hemorrhaging, all that sort of stuff, and the stuff that they're pulling out of cadavers, when they're embalming
John O'Looney, the Undertaker.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate name, but I mean, it's because, of course, the people take the mickey because of his name. But I think he's a very heroic individual. In the film, you can't actually say what the title is on YouTube, but it's Expired Without Warning. It's a synonym of that.
Yeah.
He was in the documentary Expired Without Warning, and
well, this is only the start. They've announced
shocking stuff.
And the Khazarian Mafia, which is what Benjamin Fulford calls them, he talks about the Khazarian Mafia, and they're based around Switzerland, and that's his thing. So that's basically all about the Khazarian Mafia. The UFO. The Too Hot to Handle tour is based on an interview I did with Colonel John B. Alexander, who thought I was somebody very important and said an awful lot. And he then regretted it. And he explained there were lots of Too Hot to Handle events at Bentwaters and Woodbridge. Mm-hmm. And
unless he meant to say it.
That's the category that they developed. Right, this is Too Hot to Handle. Just put it on the Too Hot to Handle thing and get on with things.
Yeah,
that's his phrase.
Colonel Alexander was in the remote viewing program.
Excuse me, it's Colonel John B. Alexander. It's a bit like saying Ian Crane. It's Ian R. Crane.
Okay, yeah.
Or it's
Colonel
a bit
John
like
B. Alexander,
it's a bit like saying Richard Hoagland. It's not Richard Hoagland. It's Richard C. Hoagland. You've got to get these things right, Ben.
Yeah, and I could guess what the C stands for. Yeah.
Now, you might guess, but I wouldn't. That's a horrendous thing to say.
But so we're going off topic here, but I mean the remote viewing thing is fascinating, and Colonel John B. Alexander was involved in this remote.
Well, Colonel John B. Alexander was there with his partner, along with I think it's John Stubblebine
Oh,
command.
yeah, Albert Stubblebine. Yeah,
He was there with
yeah.
Rowney Kilda at a special UFO conference around about the year 2000, and they were the only 4 Westerners invited to Moscow to be at that conference. And
Yeah.
that was one of the very important things that Rowney would be attributable and given
That was an
access to.
extraordinary one-off event. I think it was in the 90s. It was an extraordinary one-off event, and yeah, Colonel John B. Alexander also he met up with John Hutchison in the early 1980s when Hutchison started his work.
The so-called
as
Hutchison
discovered.
effect,
Yeah,
which it has
and
been alleged was used, or an effect that was used to crumble the structures in 9/11.
yeah, and I wonder it could be that's how that technology stream actually ended up in the hands of whoever did that attack.
Well,
Anyway,
essentially in physics, I think time is moving on.
is I carry on with that page? There's just a couple more entries on the
Yeah,
page.
okay, go ahead.
Right.
You screen share or not? This is the whole point.
Right. Oops.
This is a new source of information, and I think
I'm sharing. Let me just find out what I'm sharing. Where's the page? Here it is. This one, news feed. That's it. You should be able to see this, right? Can I just skip these 2 videos because they're not that good?
Yeah, if you
They're
could
just
make the
straightforward
screen
quality.
bigger, do try to make it bigger. If you do control, now
right.
that's interesting.
Yeah, this is.
Could you make
this.
you've made the screen bigger?
How do I magnify this? Let me just save this image. Here we go. Let me just save this image.
Well, I'll edit it in later. It's MOD and.
Okay, I'm just going to save this image and then magnify it. Here we go. And then I'll show it. Here we go. I'll send this to you.
Is that a British officer, or where you're saying this was in the Black Forest?
Yeah, I thought it might be a German, but it's actually not a German uniform.
No, I think that's English. It's definitely English.
Yeah, yeah. It's British, but however, you may have noticed there seems to be no insignia or anything else. There seems to be no insignia. There's no badges, flashes, anything like that, which you normally get on a.
Well, he's not wearing a hat. There is. I think one of the keys about these secret groups is nobody wears anything displaying rank.
I'm just trying to find a program I can open this in because it's being annoying. Here we are. Right, resize.
Okay, while you do that, what are you saying this is?
Can you see this, Miles? Can you see this?
I'm not seeing it bigger.
Right.
No.
Right, let me just share screen again. No, what am I?
It doesn't. We can always put that in the edit. I can add it in the edit.
Share. Now, if you're listening, if you're just listening on audio, you'll be seeing this gentleman. It looks like a military officer, although, as I said, there's no insignia at all on his uniform. He's not German because of the collar. I think it's British, actually.
It's definitely British military.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably maybe World War I or just after.
It
the
has
hairstyle as well.
It has that kind of a style. I'd say it's probably 1935, 36.
Possibly, or maybe. I don't know, maybe a bit earlier, 1920 something, I'd say. But we can work it out. We can work out the details.
That's very important. The style of uniform is very important.
Yeah, but what's interesting is there are people who might recognise this man. This could be your grandfather. Have you seen him? Do you and the family know this chap? Here we go. I'll just zoom in on his face. And do you know this guy? Anyone?
Well, let's look at the craft.
Yeah.
Oh, when you look at that, there's 2 stars. Are there 2 stars on that?
On what?
On his lapel.
Oh, well, let's zoom in again. Yeah, because there seems to be some collar buttons there. Maybe that's it on the lapel there.
But the expression on his face, there is something on his arm. Look at that.
What looks like there's something here. Yeah. Is that does anyone recognize? Is that a regimental? Is that a regimental badge of any kind, or do you recognize this or at all? Anyway, he's standing in these woods, and he's been photographed in these woods, and there is a flying saucer just lying there like it's crashed. It reminds me of the Yekaterinburg event in the 1960s.
Well, let's forget about the other events. Let's focus on this case. I don't like comparing events. This is, because...
Well, no, comparisons can be interesting.
No, but they're not. You're comparing, you're making this thing to something else.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's has similarities which could refer to perhaps possibly a pattern of incidents. But anyway, he's
Well, there's
he's sort of
always
standing there. He's not
there's always a
smiling.
straight line between 2 points, Ben.
He's not smiling or anything.
He
He's
doesn't look happy one bit.
no, no. If he's posing, he looks like he is sort of posing for the photo, but he doesn't look happy. The object behind is it appears to be metallic. It's structured. There's several panels sort of sticking out of it. It's resting on what looks like broken tree trunks or tree branches. Although there's
Can we zoom in on the lower part, which is
yeah.
the structures there? It's very important how that works. There, you see, that's what I'm looking at.
Some kind of landing gear or something?
Well,
Let's
it's
see
clearly a
tree
hatch
branches.
that something's got out of.
Is there any biological? Anything looks biological here?
There's
obviously tree
wheels. That's a
branches
wheel.
next to it.
There's vents.
Is that a wheel?
No, it's not a wheel. It's a vent.
It could be. I mean, it's not possible to tell for
I
certain.
mean, the point is that the Germans are flying saucers around the place from the Skoda
Yeah.
works in.
It could be one of the
Czech
Foo
Republic.
Fighters. It could be one of the. It could be one of the Foo Fighters.
But
there was
this
a ridiculous article. I mean,
a man of his size could not fit in that thing.
I would say, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily possible to get a full sense of scale here because you don't know the focal length of the shot.
But he's obviously only a few feet away.
Judging by the focus, I'd say that he is probably maybe 12 feet away, something like that.
Well,
12,
you can look at the
15
distance
feet away.
between. There's only so many footprints you can do between that.
Are there footprints on the ground?
You can see that.
But I mean,
Going
it looks
to the
like
hatch.
it looks like a small object. Yeah, it's not an Independence Day mothership. It's a small object.
Well, it's obviously
But
not
yeah, I mean,
an
there was
Independence Day mothership.
there was a rather ridiculous. There was a rather ridiculous article that was in the Daily Mail the other day, which said I can't remember it verbatim. It was a very forgettable article. It said, basically paraphrasing, "We've solved the mystery of Foo Fighters. It was an atmospheric electrical phenomenon." And I'm sure even Graham Randall
do you want to get that?
this.
Do you want to get that article up, Ben?
I'll see if I can. Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. Miles, 1 sec. Here we go. There we go. Right.
We're into 50 minutes of recording, so that's our.
Okay. So how long do you want this to be, Foo Fighters?
Well, the next guest is 7:30, so we're fine.
Right, yeah, I'm image. Well, I've got to do something at 7:30 as well, so I'm going to have a drink. Here we go. Oh, it's the Telegraph. Here we go. Right.
The Daily Tory graph.
It's actually the Tory graph, yes, not the Daily Mail. It's like the Daily Mail, except it's got bigger words.
Longer words or just bigger type?
Yeah, there we go. Longer, more. Here we go. Right. What we know about Foo Fighters that buzzed Second World War pilots.
You see,
really were, say something.
From a UFO point of view, Foo Fighters is how we're all introduced to these things decades ago. So I think what they're doing is they're educating a public.
Go away. Not you, Miles.
No, but they're educating a public who's never seen anything like this. And they're using the Foo Fighter story to introduce them that these things were flying.
But isn't this an extraordinary?
I mean, obviously that's a graphic. Yes, obviously that's a graphic. And but the point about it is, looking at that, my analysis of it is they show you clearly a structured craft which is intelligently built and controlled in the presence of a Spitfire, which means this is 1940s, early World War II, because it's only a three propeller, and it shows that it's in British territory, and it's showing that this is a real structured craft in England during World War II, which the early part of World War II, which the British military were encountering.
And it looks very much like the object we saw on Mr. Fulford's website, and it has a redness underneath, like that cave painting, which I find interesting. But can I just come on to the
But I think the clear thing here is this is a mechanical, structured craft that could be made here. The object that was in the previous photograph is a structured craft which could have been made here. In other words, we could have built it. It's mechanical. It's made of things like bolts and nuts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's important, how you analyze how they tell you these things in plain sight.
Yeah. Although, let me just mention this headline here, this extraordinary headline with enormous hubris. We know what Foo Fighters that buzzed Second World War pilots really were. They know. They haven't. It's not a theory. They've worked it out. That's what they're saying.
But this
I think.
is how they work, Ben. For instance, as I've said before, when the Ministry of Defence sent me a letter, i.e., Nick Pope, and he said UFOs are of no defence significance, and we made this documentary at Sky way back in 1992 or whatever it was. We made a whole series of reports for Sky News, and that was then compiled into a documentary for Sky One. And then there were a series of follow-up documentaries made for Sky by Bruce Burgess.
Oh yeah, those were
Remember
good.
Bruce?
They were.
Yeah,
Sort of young fat chap. Yeah.
yeah, and
A bit like me.
he
But
went
with hair.
after he. I don't think. Listen, Ben, don't give you an excuse to give you a hard time. But that they were going after a lot of the stuff that I was talking in the back in the back room and the back production side, and I went down to their offices in Soho, and that spawned an awful lot of those interviews. Right, those shows. They went to Montauk, Dreamland, interviewed Bill Uhouse, a number of other people, and this was really groundbreaking television, and it all went out in Sky.
It's very good. I mean, some of it's on YouTube. I mean, the Area 51 by Bruce Burgess.
Yeah, well, they changed the name. Sky originally aired them, and then they were aired on Saturday afternoons on ITV, basically, because they were. ITV lost the battle in terms of any kind of ratings in terms of sport on a Saturday afternoon, so they were all aired, and they're still around. And Bruce Burgess was actually took a plane up to Area 51, and he was buzzed and told to land, and he went up to the Nellis, the base, the airfield at in Las Vegas near Henderson, which is between Las Vegas, and he went up there and made a pain in the neck of himself, and he was told to basically feck away off by the border guards. So I mean, he really went there and did this.
Yeah, I mean the Janet Terminal guards. I mean, I've actually been to the Janet Terminal myself, although there was no, I didn't get into trouble because there was just lots of cars coming in and out. But yeah, it's very highly secure. But anyway, this is by Sarah Napton, science editor at the Daily Telegraph, and I'm sure even Graham Rendell would probably find this a bit dubious. They say here that it's basically a new paper suggests they have plasmas, ionized gas, which are drawn to the electrical charge of the aircraft, spacecraft, and satellite. Now, this is, I mean, the thing about these electrical discharges, they do exist. Dr. Irina Scott has written an entire book called Inside the Lightning Ball about the electrical effects that create these kinds of.
Yeah, but this is Jenny Randall stuff, ball lightning. This is the same MOD garbage, but the point is there's an awful lot of new stuff about plasma, oceans outside the Earth's atmosphere. I've just interviewed a guy who talks about plasma. Professor Robert Temple, I think is his name, has done a whole thing on intelligent plasma.
Oh, someone sent me something about that.
Yeah. And he lectured at Megalithomania and the Maria Wheatley's conference his first Maria Wheatley conference, Mysterious Universe, and he also is using material which has been talked about by other people in terms of we don't have a vacuum in space, we have plasma.
It's you see the thing about what the pilots actually describe. I mean, the documents exist. The Royal Air Force did an entire study on this, which was run by Winston Churchill. Incidentally, he was actually overseeing it. They describe something that doesn't fit into the description of. Well, what we're seeing here, for example, this is an aircraft. This is an aircraft in flight in the cockpit, and you see flashes of light and occasional little blobs coming out of it.
Yeah, ball lightning.
Yeah, that's ball lightning. It's the descriptions the pilot gives very often don't fit that. The actual descriptions that the RAF pilots were giving.
And the point about ball lightning is you've got a hill here near Pusey, and it's called Golden Ball Hill.
Yes, it's one of the
highest. There have been lots of video of daylight golden balls and jet black orbs flying through that area.
Yeah, I've actually seen some of the luminosities when I went sky watching with what's his name, the very
David Griffin.
Recluse. David Griffin, yeah, the guy who's very reclusive. I saw some orange lights, blue lights, and some golden lights. I mean, you've got to ask how that hill got its name.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And the idea that there is a 12-story secret facility right underneath that hill, and there's a big earth gate there where the ETs come and go, and they congregate there and have meetings with the British military and all the others down there. Nobody would ever suggest things like that happen at all, especially since there's a Rothschild mansion just up the field, a couple of fields from that.
Yeah. I think that's as far as Benjamin Fulford's paper goes for the 4th of February, that's the most interesting parts we've covered there, Miles.
Well, I think this is a new thing, and I think that's fascinating. And obviously, if you want to hear a lot more about Benjamin Fulford's talk, he focuses on the various backdoor stuff that he gets from the relevant dragon families or other mafia or Eastern secret societies and stuff like that. He's Canadian, and he's only famous because I did a show with him on Edge Media with what's his name, the
Theo Chalmers.
I did a show with Theo Chalmers and Benjamin Fulford, and that was because there had been 6 underground explosions at the same underground level in England. And I had a long conversation with Winston Keach about that, and he looked at the actual seismic signatures of these explosions or these events, and they were all high energy, impulse, sudden releases of energy, and they happened to be all at the same level below ground, and they were only in England, and everything that we said on the phone was then exported to the United States, because I'm sure nobody was listening to our conversation, and exactly the same story using exactly the same terms of phrase that we had with myself and Win came out from David Wilcock.
Yeah.
And it was that report which then was fed back to us in this country, and that's why I was then asked to talk with Benjamin Fulford, and that was on Edge Media.
That's a bit of nostalgia there, yeah. The final entry on that page is a famous interview with Tucker Carlson where he's talking to I think they're called the Redacted. It's the Redacted show.
Yes, it's a very good, good independent media doing a lot of very good work. Redacted news.
Tucker is very, very switched on about this subject. I was actually very disappointed that he didn't bring this up with President Putin. He spoke a lot of
and President Putin talked about genetic engineering and AI being an extremely dangerous situation.
It was, but I mean, I'd love for Tucker to go. Look, your prime minister Medvedev has already said this.
Well,
could you tell us anything about the aliens? Focus what do you know about extraterrestrials and UFOs?
Well, Putin is a super soldier. He does psychic warfare and extremely fierce, and you don't mess with them.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the few statesmen on earth I feel any sense of respect for, to be honest. But the thing about it is, I mean, it could have been edited out. I mean, Tucker might have asked him.
It wasn't edited out. It wasn't the subject of the program. The subject of the program was about Ukraine war, not about Anorak UFOs.
Well, I do hope that Tucker goes back and says,
"Well, we'll see.
Vlad, just tell us about the aliens, mate. We know you've got them."
Look, Ben, we've been dealing with them for a very long time.
And the Russians,
as in the Alpha Draconis being manifested in Xener by Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, and they have been dealing with the Alpha Draconis, which are the most vicious and most deadly enemy that we could possibly have, and that's what's in work right now. We have an enemy. We have an enemy of the Alpha Draconis, and they're called the Negromac, and they only turned up in 1989, and they were featured in the movie Independence Day. They're the only feared enemy of the Alpha Draconis, and they are here to kick ass.
All right. But, Paul Stonehill has actually examined ancient records from the from Russian archives, and he's found reports of landings and abductions and interactions dating back over 250 years in Russia.
Ben, we're dealing with them. That's the point of UFOs' no defense significance. They are intricately involved with our defense forces. We are completely compromised. The difference is that a lot of those types were kicked off this planet. Some of them as recently as October last year near East Knoll, where you visited Cloud's house.
Yeah, I see.
There's a whole lot of stuff we've done on that.
That's right, yeah. Right.
And that involved transferring reptilian souls into humans.
Right.
And that's another story.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ben, I think that's time to wrap that up. You've done a really good resume of this new source of information. That's the whole point of this.
Yes.
And the next one on the runway will be Dave Hodrian, and we're going to be talking about it's ICER, isn't it?
It's the
International Committee Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research.
That's what he's the British director of that organisation. But the actual
he's the deputy to Gary Heseltine.
Yeah, exactly. But the actual organisation here is an actual pilot database for reporting UFOs.
Yeah.
You know? By the way, check out my book. Read my book.
Yeah.
Available all good bookshops now. Price £10.
No, hold it up properly. Is there an ISBN number? No.
Yeah.
Is there a ISBN number?
Course,
how do
yes,
people do it properly, Ben? Let's people
hold
it up so people can see it.
Yeah, thank you, Miles. Yeah. If you want,
and
like
turn it round, and
let
people see the ISBN number. Hold that click properly up to the screen.
That's the ISBN. Yeah, actually, hopefully it's visible there.
Yeah. So you get a good freeze frame.
Yeah, I mean, it's you get it from anywhere, but
even Devices books in Devices.
Yeah, order it from there. They will have
Devices books is brilliant.
And but this organisation is called the Pilots Reporting UAPs. I think a database. It's modelled on Gary Heseltine's Prufos database, police reporting UFO sightings.
And who's organising that?
Basically, it's Gary and Dave.
Right. Okay.
I think, and the guest that's coming up, of which I'm the warm-up act. Dave Hodrian. I'm hoping to speak to him myself on my own show, actually.
Well, I think this is important stuff. I don't touch the UFO side of things because I deal with the transhumanization things, which is imminent post-human era now faces us within a decade or earlier.
Well, they're connected. They're all connected. So, but this is about basically pilots.
People don't realise that's what's happening.
Because a lot of the witnesses in recent years who've come out are pilots who have spoken out about what they've encountered when they've been
They don't
in the air.
need to talk to the pilots. They're in our bases.
Of course, I know, but of course I understand that. But the presence, the public awareness of the presence of a non-human intelligence interacting with the human race, I think is a very important step towards greater awareness of what's really going on. Which is
talking a bit late. Alpha Draconis involved with us here in large numbers in the bases. We've got witnesses who've travelled with the Alpha Draconis in tunnels underneath Warminster.
And if people have an awareness
of the baby farms,
I'm going to say
the baby
non-human construction, then they'll be more open to the ideas that you've just talked about, the Alpha Draconis and the ones that are here to kick ass that came in 1989 and all the others. You see, it's knowledge steps, Miles. That's what I'm saying.
Well, as the 40% angle on the death rate continues, we'll have to see how many of us are going to be left.
Well,
very soon.
We'll be us.
Which part of direct existential extermination do you not understand?
I think I understand it pretty well. I was a hospital porter for 23 years. But things crossed. I mean, I do hope everyone will be all right. I do.
Hope isn't. We have to be more effective on that. That's my argument.
Yeah.
Right. Well, time for me to say goodbye.
Okay.
This is Maria Wheatley's book. So just hold that up there.
Yeah, brilliant. I actually got a bit of a preview of that book. She just had the prototype copy with her at Awakening, and she let me flick through it. It was really
well,
nice.
The bottom line is there was a publishing screw up. This cover came out not as well as it should have in the first print run, and this is the final print run. Notice it does not have a sort of curling up cover that a lot of these publishers do.
Too many books have that.
It's bad publishing, bad.
Yeah. You got to actually put them between two other books or put something on top.
Well, she wasn't going to have that, and this is a wonderful book. She's really focused on it. I have to say, one researcher who just looked at it recently said there were no references in it, which I'll have to say is a valid criticism.
Well, I mean, you can always go and look these things. I mean, citations. A lot of books have them, but it's possible to look these things up yourself.
Well, not if you don't have references. The
Well,
main
you can
thing
just
is
Google the words,
that what Maria has got there, and we were there at Stonehenge 10 days ago on a early call, 7:30 in the morning, to do a shoot there, and she is talking about material which is completely rocking the whole structure of archaeology, because there are stuff that they do not want you to know, a completely different race of beings, all massacred, long-skulled, who originally constructed Stonehenge, and what's happened to Stonehenge and the abuse and many of the stones taken. One of them, a key altar stone taken by the King James I, to St. James's Palace. And Maria actually did a little sort of request. Could King Charles III please hand it back, please?
Yeah, I mean, is it on public display at St James's Palace?
It's in public, and it was some time ago. Stonehenge people asked for it back. But these stones are not meant to be crusty, horrible, things with lichens growing on them. They used to be highly polished. The base of Stonehenge was originally brilliant white polished chalk, and there were a lot more of them. And what we have there at the moment is a very poor and distorted representation of what originally it was when these long-skulled people constructed them. And the long skulls were all massacred, and there are a couple of long barrows not too far away south of Pottern from here where there are mass graves of them.
Yeah, the stones, it would have been an extraordinary sight when it was made, because, as Miles said, the stones were smooth, they were shaped, they were polished, like new gravestones as opposed to the old gravestones you see in a churchyard. Because you can tell how old they are because
to
how
be
worn
fair,
they are.
with English Heritage, the staff there were absolutely fantastic. They have a wonderful visitor centre there. They're working very hard, and a lot of people are really, really protecting the stones. The point is that, if you touch them, then your heat and acids from your fingers and stuff will then etch into where the lichens are. They then die, and then it leads to the further degrading of the stones, even though the lichens are eating the stones in the first place.
There's some you can visit, like the Rollright stones in Oxford. You can go right into near Oxford.
Well, this is another problem with
Stonehenge,
where they are talking about closing the whole area off, like they've done with Karnak. And
yeah.
Okay, that's another thing. Thank you very much, Ben.
You're welcome, Miles. It's been great, very interesting, and thanks for watching, everyone. And check me out, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order, HPANWO, pronounced Hapanwo. You'll find everything about me there.
Yeah, it's Maria's doing a book signing at the Avebury bookshop in Avebury, and the little shop in Avebury, and you'll be able to do this on, I think it's March the 23rd or 28th.
That's right, yes.
It's the 23rd or 28th?
It is the 23rd, I believe, because it's the day after Mark Devlin's Oxford tour. Yes, it is. And
okay, March 23rd, Avebury bookshop at Avebury Stones is a signing for this launch of this book on the 23rd, and it's in 2024, so that's when it's happening.
Yeah, and I'll look forward to that because I'm going to be there.
Good. Bye-bye.